Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today, we are here with Scott Rochelle, and Scott is the head of the National Basketball Retired Players Association and lives here in Evanston and, is very involved here. And I love basketball, and, it's so cool to be able to talk about it. I wish the season was still going on right now. But I'm really enjoying watching The Last Dance, so that's a lot of fun. Have you been watching that?
Oh, absolutely. We're watching religiously and doing a lot of work around the documentary as well. We're doing a lot of player interviews and storytelling outside of the actual documentary. We actually had a role in the documentary. We used probably about 12 of our members during the All-Star Weekend in Charlotte 2 years ago to do some of the filming. So it's been exciting to see them on screen and see the work we did kind of come to life for the whole world to see.
That is awesome. So what does the organization do then? I mean, it helps promote what the players are doing?
So we're the official alumni association for the NBA. So anyone who played the NBA, the ABA, the WNBA, and we even represent Harlem Globetrotters for their historical perspective on the game. And so what we do is we work in everything in the transition, player marketing, licensing, health and wellness, career education, anything that deals with a player moving on after their career is what we do. And we're funded by the NBA to do that.
Okay. And is every player automatically in the association?
Unfortunately, no. We do have to sign players up. Part of our organizational structure is a licensing agreement wherein we are able to take the player's likeness and market it for their passive rights. So they're able to generate passive revenue and royalties and likeness, things of that nature. So we do have to have them actually sign up with us. We've been very fortunate to have a really great, not just a membership program, but a renewal program as well. Anyone who joins us, we have over a 95% renewal rate, partially because of the financial piece, but the other piece is the community building, where we are the community that players have known their whole life. So when they leave the game, we're able to continue that. The locker room feeling, the camaraderie, the family is what the association is. And so we have over 1,000 members right now, again, comprising of all four of those categories. And things are really good. We have younger players joining us. The NBA is getting close to the 75th year.
Yeah.
With that being said, we have a lot of older members. And so when you have that many members and that kind of diversity, it's important that we recruit different segments and really focus in. And so it's been nice to be able to see the younger players see the value and come into the association to join a lot of the older 50, 60, 70, 80, even 90-year-old former NBA and ABA players.
And do you do a lot of things with current players and having them interact with the retired players to get some guidance?
We try to. The transition from active and retired can be daunting for them. So we try to get to the current players as much as possible to help them understand what transition will look like. If they transition well and they know what their next act is going to look like, they're able to really focus in on what their purpose is. When you leave a game of basketball, you lose a sense of purpose. It's been what they've done at a very high level for so long. And so we try to, one, let the active players know what we're doing, and also kind of let the active players see that this is life after basketball, and they didn't create the game of basketball. They're awesome athletes. They've done tremendously well, but there are other players who've paved the way for them who've done a tremendous job, not just on the court, but off the court. We've had court cases we've had to fight in the past for free agency and early entry. Our members, one of our founders, Oscar Robertson, was one of those litigants. Our past chairman, Spencer Haywood, was a litigant to begin the early entry into the NBA. So, that historical perspective is important for us, and we really try to help the active players understand what that means.
Yeah, I mean, it's really players' rights. And the NBA has changed so much over the course of its history, where in the 70s, it was basically struggling to survive.
Yes.
And the ABA had to roll into the NBA. And then it just went through a massive explosion of popularity, which is what we're seeing when we're watching The Last Dance. Yes. And learning about that. So are there things that you do to try to, get some of these players more who are retired, who've been retired from a long time, to be able to make more income off their likeness? Because, they didn't get these massive contracts that players get nowadays.
Right. The marketing piece of it is very nuanced. There are the top 50 players who always are in demand for autographs, appearances, different jersey sales. But, the challenge for us is to make sure that we have the marketing piece in the regional areas. So a player who played in the NBA but had a really strong college career, we're able to, capitalize on their marketability there and help them there. So if there are appearances in that region, hate to say it, but the NCAA tournament was one of our biggest revenue opportunities because you have regional tournaments and regional, events going on. We're able to pair dozens of players with each regional event. And although they may not make huge money on a global scale as a former NBA player, their college career and their regional importance is really marketable. So we lost out this year, obviously for good reason, for the health and safety of the country. But we work a lot just globally as well as locally to help everyone try to maximize whatever they can to use their likeness to keep it going.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's been such a tough thing, coronavirus for every industry, and sports has been a massive hit. I mean, do you think the NBA season is going to start up again? We're going to have playoffs?
It's day by day. The story changes. I know that there is a heavy push to continue the games. There are partnership things to consider. The players want to play, but they want to remain safe. And so every day there are meetings and there are discussions on how to make this work, if it can work. Every day is different. The momentum swings completely. And I couldn't tell you what I think is going to happen. I do know that there is heavy interest in making something happen for the rest of the year. We're communicating with the NBA to see what we can do around, obviously not being active players, being former players. Much of what we do is around active games, player appearances, suite visits, the little simple things like that, which, I'm not going to say we took for granted, but those things that we really thrive around, we're missing. And so we're trying to find best ways to keep it going, keep players engaged, doing a lot of digital work, and hoping that there is a time when we can bring it all together. We typically get together in the summertime around the NBA Summer League. We're not sure what's going to happen with that. So a lot of contingencies, a lot of things up in the air, but the communication has been tremendous. And we've really been working internally and externally to know that, the next move we make is going to be the right move.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to consider. And, this past NBA season has been one of the craziest ones in memory.
Yes.
Obviously Kobe dying has had a dramatic effect on the country.
For sure.
And then, everything shutting down, basically everything shut down when the NBA said we're stopping play. And it just shows you the importance of the NBA and basketball on American culture, global culture.
Yeah.
I mean, did it strike you and, the people, the retired players and everybody who you speak to?
There was supreme leadership, from my opinion. It was a risk. The NBA was the first league to say, we're not going to keep going. We're going to shut it down. And everyone followed suit. And I think everyone got the message at that point. Was it shocking? Not necessarily. The NBA has always been very well led and hasn't always made the most popular decisions, but they're the right decisions. And with that one, it did make sense to me at the time. You had player safety, you had the public safety, all wrapped in one, where you literally have players on the court and being tested on site for the coronavirus at that time. And so swift action was taken. It was necessary. And I think that the country is much better off because of the decision the NBA made, and it wasn't popular. A lot of money's being lost. This is not easy for them. But it definitely did save lives, which is at the end of the day, the most important thing.
That is the most important thing. And, so many players have gotten it, and high profile players, and it doesn't matter if you're high profile or not,
right.
But just, I think it's been a wake up call that was really, it made it really serious for people.
For sure.
I've read some things about like Stephon Marbury about how he's been trying to tell everybody about what's been going on because he's in China and everything else, and that really influenced the decision a lot to shut down. But, to go back to Kobe, um, you know, all the different events that they've had to remember him, um,
Mhm.
it's incredibly sad. But did you see a lot of alumni getting together and connecting who hadn't seen each other in years because of that?
Absolutely. And so to give a little bit more perspective on it, we lost David Stern at New
Yeah,
Year's.
yeah,
And
that's right.
so there was a memorial service, and there was a lot around David Stern's passing and remembering him. And so, within weeks we lose Kobe. And so it's shocking, obviously. And it really does, shut everyone down, because Kobe was an amazing talent on the court, but his post career accomplishments and activities and everything had grown to the he was the model retired player.
Right.
He was not just doing so much great work in the community. He had great business acumen, the family aspect. He was really hard to work with once he retired. And I say this kind of tongue in cheek. He was difficult to work with because we couldn't schedule anything with him, because his schedule was based around his daughter's basketball. Everything we tried to do, everything we put together had to wait. And even the Los Angeles All-Star weekend, he missed a great chunk of that because he was working with his daughter. Looking back on it, you understand it. And, we always rolled our eyes and said, oh, here, Kobe's tough to deal with, but you get it. And you see that in his leadership. And when Kobe passed, the conversation wasn't about him being the greatest on the court. The conversation was about everything around what he had become off the court. We had the hashtag, girl dad, and men all across the world are posting pictures with their daughters and aspiring to be the father that Kobe was. That's what's most important. That's what makes him so important to society, was that he was more than a basketball player. He was really just a model person. And yes, he had a past that had to be atoned for, but he had spent so much time working on so many things that were important, supporting the women's game, doing so much with his kids in the community. He has a reading program. The guy's writing books and things. And so we were really proud of that. And when we lost that, we lost so much more than just a basketball player.
Yeah, I was really moved by watching the interviews like on TNT when like Shaq went around and Dwayne Wade and all the guys just talking about their experiences. And it was just like, I just couldn't get enough watching it because I
Right.
was feeling so sad about it. And it was, helpful to be able to hear that. And, you look at, I grew up, I think we're about the same age. I grew up in the early 80s in Chicago,
Right.
loved the Bulls. And I look up to these guys and I love basketball, playing it, but just to see the humanity of people. And,
Right.
you look at people like they're giants and heroes. They're people just like us.
Yes.
And, it was really moving.
No, for sure. And, in this job, I get to see the whole person when it comes to the players, not just what they were on the court or their big personality in the media. You get to meet the whole person, and you really fall in love with these guys and their personalities and everything that they bring to the table. You know, they're just like everyone else. They're fathers, husbands. They're I call them regular citizens, but so much more goes into them than just dribbling the ball. And so working with them shows you that. It makes you appreciate it, and you really do see the world differently.
How did you get involved there?
So I've always wanted to work in sports. Always been involved. I played basketball at a young age, and even as a kid, I wanted to find a way to find a career in sports. However, it's not really easy, and so I,
No.
I took a traditional route. I went, after college, I went to grad school and law school, and I always kept my interest in sports, but nothing really, worked. And so I had a mentor that told me, "Hey, get the best education you can, get the best training you can in legal, and things will work out." And that's kind of how it worked out. I was in a mid-sized law firm in the city practicing and doing sports work nights and weekends. And fortunately, I had met enough people and worked with enough people that opportunities came my way. And when the association moved from New York to Chicago, I was able to not only have a legal practice that supported sports entities and athletes, but the relationship to be able to work with the association and then eventually become an employee of the association. And in 2017, when the CEO stepped down, I applied for the job, and I had been there for 4 or 5 years and worked with everyone, worked with the board, and had been working in programming. And that momentum really helped to carry me into the job. And so, since then, it's been amazing. Really love the again, we talk about the on-court stuff, but the off-the-court stuff is so much more important. Helping players get their educations, finish their, finish up their college credits so they can go into a second career. Working with players in the community, doing so many youth clinics and different things, seeing them in their element really is the best part of the job. Law practice and being at a mid-sized firm, look, everyone, everyone who's a lawyer will tell you that, there are elements of the job that are fun. There's nothing compared to being involved in sports and on the player side, working with players and then having that impact with them on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, do you pinch yourself sometimes when you're
all the time
with these people?
I tell you what, Aaron, if someone figures out that I get paid to do this, we're all in trouble. I'll put it that way. No, it's amazing. You get to travel the world. With the players, you get to do so many amazing things with them, and yeah, it's a career. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be luckier to have the opportunity, because it is really, it doesn't feel like work. And even, I had a funny story. The first board of directors meeting I worked in, I was taking the minutes for the meeting, and it was a marathon meeting. I'm legal counsel. I'm just the kid in the corner, and we're on the 4th or 5th hour. I've used the bathroom, and I'm sweating, and I'm trying to keep up with the minutes and the notes, and I'm complaining to myself. I'm going, God, this is the worst. And I look up and I look at the table, and there are 4 Hall of Famers. Of them, 3 of them are the top 50 of all time, and I'm in the room with them. And I said, you know what? This is going to be okay. It could be worse. So I haven't complained since. Well, I have, but no one listens. But
yeah.
No, in all seriousness, this is amazing. The people you get to work with and meet, and again, traveling with these guys and seeing the way they impact people, seeing kids who never get a chance to meet ball players, get a chance to not just take a picture, but learn basketball from them, or get a pep talk from them about what it means to be a good person, a good student, and how you become successful. That's amazing. It really is. I wish I could broadcast it for the world to see, because it really is special. And we don't normally see it. All we normally see is the basketball part of it, but there's so much more of it that really does work well.
There's so much more. And, I was listening to an interview with Kimbe Mutombo and David Axelrod, and learning about what he's doing around the world in global diplomacy.
Right.
And I mean, it's incredible what he's up to.
Yes.
And
so the Kimbe is the kind of guy. So I've traveled with the Kimbe a couple of times, and we went to China. The first time I went to China with him, we had a shopping trip, and people are jumping in the vans. We're going to shop, and the Kimbe is writing out a list. So Kimbe, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm making a list of the supplies I need to find while we're out here for the school. For the hospital and the school that I'm building. I said, oh, that's great. So everyone else is trying to find, fashion and great, trinkets and tourist things. The Kimbe spent hours that day finding walkie-talkies and different things that he could buy for the hospital that he built back in Africa. And so, that was the difference for me. I said, you know what? The Kimbe, you came all the way over here, and your only focus is the work that you can do for the people that you support back in your home country. And he said, yeah, that's it. He said, Scott, what else is there? I said, well, I get it.
He is an incredible human being. And I think it's because, they are playing, they're ultra athletes, unbelievable. I mean, I've played basketball with people who are like Division III, and they blow me away. I'm like, what?
Right.
And then people ask like, oh, are like NBA, like the worst NBA player, is the worst NBA player good? It's like, they're in the NBA. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
They're incredible.
Right.
And they compete with each other on such a high level. And you just see how much it means to win, and that perseverance, and that they could take that. It's so important what you're doing to be able to help them harness that motivation and skill, an unbelievable experience to anything in the world.
And they do attack the rest of their lives that way. The biggest thing we have to do, we don't have to motivate them. we don't have to do anything but give them the options of
Yeah.
what else there is out there for them, and kind of set their shoulders in the right direction. Once we do that, that drive, that competition, that need to be the very best always comes through. And so when we set them up with classes to finish their degree, they're finishing the degree. They're doing well in classes. They're doing those things. They just need to have the options and understand that once this part of your life is over, this is the next piece, and this is how you attack it. Once you show them, they're good to go. That's been a really great thing to see firsthand, because you hear the stories and you hear about athletes aren't good at this. They can only do this, or they're not good at business. And I'll tell you, athletes in business have the same success rate as you and I. How many people do you know who start a business and are wildly successful with it? It's the same rate of success. The problem is that the lights are on them and we're watching them. And if they fail, we're accustomed to watching them either succeed or fail in front of us. So now we're watching them in their second act. Oh, you failed. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Guess what? We're all failing all the time. And so, what they bring to the table, with regard to, drive and energy, those things, it's much more than the average person. We just treat them differently if they don't bring the same results that we expect them to have on the court.
Well, we have such high expectations.
Yeah, and so that's what we work through. We work through the mental aspect of it. We do a lot of mental health preparation, and it's not that they're in mental health trouble. It's that they've transitioned away with an identity crisis that the normal person doesn't deal with. We have transitions in our lives, right? We go from school to school, maybe career to career. They go from being world-class athlete known to the world to not. And that in between, in that the space in between there, you got to have some vision and some direction. Otherwise, a lot of things can go wrong.
Is that why the organization was started?
Yes. The organization was started and to, first of all, build the community so that players knew that there was a place for them. But it was also an advocacy group early on. There were pension rights and different things that players who play the game didn't feel as if they were receiving. So fortunate now to have the very best pension in pro sports, the best healthcare plan of any pro sport, with lifetime health benefits for anyone who's played 3 years or more for life. If you play, and there's a graduated system, 10 years or more, your whole family, all those things. No one else has that. The pension benefits, again, are amazing. And the last collective bargaining agreement gave us more money on top of an already great program. So, the association was started early on in 1992 to get these things going. Right now, we're living in the world that we wanted to see back in 1992. So it really is important for us to seize the opportunities and really build upon what our founders put together.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's been very successful in doing so. And, the NBA just seems like such a, compared to the other leagues, you're not coming out of the league with concussion problems in CTE. It's an incredibly diverse league in terms of, coaches, leadership, players. It just seems like the league has really been forward thinking as it's grown and evolved, right?
Absolutely. And another example of that, you mentioned concussions for NFL players. We don't come out of things squeaky clean. I mean, we have the orthopedic injuries are always there for anyone who's played sports. But what we learned a few years back was that basketball players were at very high risk of cardiovascular disease and issues. And so we screen for that. Throughout the year, we work with the NBRPA to do screenings across the country. Part of it is the cardiovascular nature of their sport. They're larger individuals. They have larger hearts. Any athlete has an enlarged heart, and when you stop, your heart is accustomed to moving in that way. And so, there are other medical reasons for it. There's cultural reasons, and some guys just don't continue to train. Their diets change. And so we lost a number of players to heart disease in a very short period. And so we began screening for it. We've caught heart defects. We've had players go in and have transplants from the screenings.
Oh, wow.
There's been quite a bit of response to the screenings. And really, I go through the screenings twice a year. It's really thorough. It's a full hour full of everything you can think of: stress tests, blood draws, and that has helped our players tremendously. But again, it's the forward thinking of the NBPA and the NBA to think through, hey, if we're losing guys to this, we need to go out and screen for it proactively. And again, I can't thank the active players enough for what they've done for us.
Well, I mean, you look at like Will Chamberlain, he died from a heart issue, right?
Yes.
And you
Moses
have
Malone, Daryl Dawkins. When we lost those two in very short succession, it was time to act.
absolutely. And then even seen active players die on the court with different types of issues, and
Yes.
it's scary.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you really look out for the players, but the organization also looks out for the world and does a lot of public good. Do you do a lot with NBA Cares?
Yes. So we have a full court press youth clinic program that we do, and it started about 7 years ago, where we were literally taking 5 or 6 players into 5 different cities and doing clinics, and it's grown to about 20 cities a year. And it was originally an NBA Cares partnership. We've grown into a junior NBA affiliation, so that we're teaching basketball skills through the junior NBA platform. We're doing life skills as well with some of our national partners. The National Police Athletic League has worked with us. And so now we're going 20 cities, 5 to 6 players each city. Thousands of kids are being impacted. It really has been amazing for us. And so anytime we can work with the NBA's community service group, we do. Our players are always looking for opportunities to get involved in the community, basketball side, or just, in during All-Star weekend, doing the day of service, things of that nature. The players understand that they've been fortunate. They understand that they have had a very amazing life because of the game of basketball. And for that reason, they want to give back, and they want to give as much as they can with regard to knowledge and time. And so, the NBA's community service group has been a very, very welcoming partner of ours. And we're looking to do more, as the future unfolds, and we're able to get back into the public spaces and do work together.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. I'm sure you're incredibly affected by coronavirus and what you can do in terms of programming. Mm-hmm. How do you see this unfolding, and how have you shifted right now to continue to be a light onto the community?
So as I said earlier, day by day it changes. We hope to have an opportunity to do some outreach. As a membership organization, one of the strengths is our events and our ability to bring people together, bring players together, to keep that family. Because we can't do that in person, we've done it digitally, and it's been, I would actually say we're thriving in that space. We've actually had more engagement through the digital platforms, social media. We have a twice a week program called Legends Live, where we go on and we stream over we stream off Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, these conversations amongst players. Yesterday we had Jaren Jackson Jr. and Jaren Jackson Sr., a father-son NBA duo, and Stephen Howard, who's one of our members who's in broadcasting. They had an amazing conversation together, talking about getting through this situation, but also the history of basketball and what they're doing as a family and how it all works together. We keep those conversations going, and we do that. We have more engagement. We have more players involved. And it's really, again, I say we're thriving in this. It's unfortunate we have to have this type of communication only, but it's been really good for us to push out as much content as we're pushing out. And let's be clear, with the Jordan Last Dance documentary and all the history that's being put out, it's good for our players. Our players lived that. They were a part of that. So to go back to it now, it's been amazing for them. And giving the opportunity to talk about it has been great. So although we can't get together, we can't come to games, and we can't do our usual parties and social activities and youth clinics, we are impacting our membership. And I feel that we're impacting the community by being leaders in talking about the game. Even though we can't play the game, we talk about it, and the larger issues around the game are still there, very much on the topic, on topic for the work that's being done with us as well as the NBA. So, again, it's an unfortunate situation we're in. We're making the best of it. In many ways, we're thriving because we've been able to touch more people than we normally do.
Yeah. And, when you hear these types of conversations and, you hear these guys who played years ago, it gives you goosebumps, and it takes you into that time period and away from, the scary reality.
No, for sure. And they have the best stories. These players they have amazing stories. They live through so much, and as much as we can do to tell their stories, the better we all are. I have the opportunity to sit and listen to so many different stories that some of them can't even repeat, but I wish that more people could hear them. And so what we do is we try to put as many players in a position to share and not just share the story, but show another side of themselves where people can see the depth that they have. And that's the goal right now. And it's been working, and we're going to continue to do that.
Oh, I love it. I would love, I think about like the All-Star weekend. It was in Chicago this year. So that must've been an awesome experience for you.
Yes.
And I just remember like Charles Barkley talking about like all the different parties for all the, former players and whatnot. And I would just love to be a fly in the wall and listen to those conversations.
It's great seeing them come together as a community and relive what they had and knowing what they're missing by not having that, by not being in the locker room with the players all the time. Seeing that connection is amazing. They enjoy it so much. And, that's the hardest part about this. We can't create that environment. And some of the older players are having to learn to do things digitally. We've been teaching Zoom classes for the older guys to get on and having their children or their grandchildren show them so that they can be involved, because nothing's changing anytime soon with regard to this. So, but no, that's the best part about it. The guys love each other, and as as an executive for the association and the staff, our job is to create those opportunities and then get out of the way and let them have it. They don't come to see me. They don't come to see the staff. They come to see each other. So we create the environment. We have amazing staff that works on these things. We put together the very best events for the players. And then we get out of the way. We get out of the way and we watch. And sometimes we'll all sit in the corner and just go like this and go, wow, this is amazing, But yeah, it's good.
It's amazing. Where are your offices, by the way, in Chicago?
So we're in the financial district at Jackson and LaSalle, and we sublease from my old law firm. That's kind of the relationship started. The association moved from New York, and the firm I was with had 8 offices that were empty because a bankruptcy group left. And so we said, hey, we'll be your attorneys, but we also have space here for you. And it just worked out beautifully. So we sublease from the firm, and we have, a nice little 8 offices in the corner that we're able to use. And it's great because it keeps our overhead down. The less we spend on overhead, the more we spend on our players. So it really has been a nice arrangement for us.
Yeah, that is a good, perfect arrangement.
Yes.
And, just to get back a little bit to the Skev here in Evanston, how long have you been here, and your relationship with Evanston?
Born and raised. I went to Evanston. I went to all Evanston schools. I was born and raised in Skokie, and then live in Evanston now. And both parents were educators in the Evanston school system. I had a short stint. I had one term on the Evanston school board, and that was amazing because it was being able to come back once I graduated from law school and come back to the community and re-engage. It really helped me understand where the community was now. And, education's, I call it the family business. There's so many educators in the family. And so finally having a role in education was great, but having a role in education in my own community was just amazing when you get to learn, the community needs, and you go back to the school and you help, the communication point. Obviously, school board isn't running the school. We're not, day to day. Right. But, when something is going on in the community and you don't, and the school is doing something or the school, there's an opinion that somehow something isn't right, the school board has to hear it, And so that was probably the best part about it, was the communication piece of it, of learning exactly what the pulse of the community was with regard to education, and using your vote at times to really help move things along.
Yeah, I think in Evanston, definitely there's a huge value to education here.
Yes.
And I've interviewed Dr. Witherspoon and talked about his experience there. He is super enthusiastic about the school. I've never met somebody more enthusiastic about the school that they're running, but it's awesome. I love that. And I think it flows through to the students and to the community at large.
I'll tell you, Eric's enthusiasm was, I would say, is infectious. And I'll say this, I'm happy to say it now. I learned a lot about leadership from him. I was on his board. And so watching him as the chief executive of the school district, and then seeing how our board operated helps me tremendously in my job today, because now I'm the chief executive and I manage a board. And there are times when I think about it, I go, wow, I get it. I understand where Eric was coming from, or I understand the challenges he had. And because we weren't the easiest board to work with. School boards are full of strong personalities, and sometimes there's the fighting there. But I really appreciate him more now that I've been in that role, and look back and see how he was managing things and how he used that energy to push us through. There was always, a smile on his face, and he was always positive. And even in tough times, he was saying, we're going to get through this, and we're going to do it this way. And so I appreciate Eric a lot more than I'm off the board than I look back on it that probably did when I was there. Although I love everyone at that school. Again, the school has been part of my life. My mother was a guidance counselor there. She retired at Evanston. She did Teacher 65 and 202. My father started in 65, went to 202, and then finished in 65. And so, everything about Evanston schools is everything to me. I'm a graduate, and coming back and being able to have a little itty bitty role in how Evanston schools operated was special.
Yeah, no, they are great. My kids are in Walker in District 65, and you could just see the enthusiasm that people have. And, right now it's a trying time. My kids are upstairs, trying to do their work. And I don't know if you have children or not, but
I don't know.
Yeah, so it's a little bit less of dealing with some of that stuff right now. But it's important, I think, that they're able to be resilient. We all need to be resilient during these times. If people want to be able to find what's going on with your organization, where should they go and follow?
Good question. Our website is legendsofbasketball.com. Our social media handles across all outlets is at NBA alumni. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch. It's at NBA alumni. Come find us, come interact with us. We do a lot. We're doing a lot right now. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we have a live stream speaking from player to player. And on Sundays, right before the Last Dance airs, we have a pre-show with Scott Williams, who was one of the Bulls in the first 3 championships. So come check us out. We'd love to talk to you, love to hear from you. And if you want to find out what the players are up to, we're happy to tell you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. And I want to interact and ask some questions to the players. So
absolutely
fun. Yeah. Stay on for just a moment, but I really appreciate you being here, and everyone for watching or listening, and everyone please stay well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure, Scott.